Hey Guitar Champion, and welcome to the second add-on of the Den of Sweeping, the Rise of 7. Here we are talking about 7th arpeggios. And in the first chapter here I want to explain to you a little bit what that actually mean and how we can apply those to our shapes that we have learned so far. Alright, first, what is a 7th arpeggio? Well, it's basically pretty easy. You may remember the structure of the origin chord. We have a root note, then we are adding to that root note the third, then we are adding to the third of the third, which is in this case the fifths, and then on top of the root, the third and the fifths, we are also adding the third of the fifths, and this is the sevenths. When you're seeing this in number, it's a little bit easier to understand. We are always skipping one note. We have 1, we have 3, the third, we have fifths, the 5, and we have the sevenths, the sevenths. The seventh chord made a lot of stuff a little bit more, I would say, jazziger. It's a sound that we use a lot in all kinds of jazz music, going from the old school swing era to bebop, hard bop, and then what we are going to take a deeper look at, fusion music. Especially players like, for example, Frank Gambale really developed a big style and a unique style based on those 7th arpeggio combined with sweeping. And today I'm going to show you some shapes for this. We are first off starting with the 3-string sweep arpeggios, and there we are adding the 7ths to it. Now we can have an easy way and we can have a little bit more kind of complex way. And I will take for us now the more complex way, because when you understand this in the complex way, it's way easier to understand it in the level underneath it, which may seem easier in the first place, but once you've got those sweep shapes and those 7th shape under your finger, believe me, it's not a big of a deal. For example, what I mean with the easy way, we can take this E minor arpeggio, and by just not playing the octave on the G string, but 2 frets below that, we have already added the 7ths to it. So here we have the main structure like root, third, fifths and 7. Now, but I also want to add the 7ths as an octave on the G string, because then the arpeggio is a little bit more interesting and also a little bit more playable in 8 notes and 16 notes. So, and the octave of this note here, 10th fret D on the E string, is the 7th fret on the G string. So now we have 2 hammer-on and pull-offs when it comes to our 3-string sweep arpeggios. Remember, usually we are only playing 1 pull-off on the 3-string sweep arpeggio shape, so only 1 turnaround point. This is on the high E string, like here for example. The rest is all sweeped, but now we have this idea. We have a second turnaround point, which also made this really interesting for our right hand, and we're going to take a deeper look in our right hand after I've went through all the shapes. So okay, but let us take a step back again and let's rewind a little bit. We are starting, of course, with major chords. And here, like on the other example, I take A major. Now we're starting with a shape that usually is our root position, because we are starting with a root note on the lowest note on the G string, so I always call this one the root position. Now it's a little bit tricky to call these root position, first inversion, second inversion when it comes to the 7 arpeggios, but now through the second note that we are adding on the G string, things get a little bit different. But it's not too complicated, believe me. So first, let us check out the 7 interval that we can add to this major chord. We have 2 sorts of 7ths, the major 7 and the minor 7, and we can both add to a major chord. The major 7 arpeggio of the root position, still call this one root position, sounds and looks like this. We're adding the G sharp on the E string on the 16th fret with our pinky. So instead of going to the 17th fret, we're going just to the 16th fret. And the octave of it, which is the 13th fret on the G string. Here again, be really careful with the row technique with our middle finger, and that the index finger is pushing away from the string in the same moment where we hit with our middle finger the B string. Otherwise we create this one here. So be aware of that we only hear here the C sharp, the major third. So now, and with the minor 7, it looks and sounds like this. Here, instead of the 16th fret, we're going 1 fret below, because the minor 7 is also 1 note below the major 7, to the 15th fret, and the same we're doing in the octave, going from the 13th fret to the 12th fret. Okay, this was root inversion major 7 and dominant 7. Now we also have a minor chord, but most of the time we are using only the minor 7 in minor chord. There are some variations of the major 7 in a minor chord situation. We know this, for example, from the James Bond movies. But it's really rare, and I don't want to tackle this too much in those etudes. I want to show you the regular kind of major and minor arpeggio shapes that we also get from the scales. And if you have understood those, it's really easy for you to play around a little bit with certain combinations of minor and major chords with different 7th chords, with different 7 intervals to it. Okay, so we're taking the minor 7, so that's still 15th fret on the E string, 12th fret on the G string, and now, as always, we only have to shift the major third to the minor third. So from the 14th fret to the 30th fret, and then we get this sound. And now we can go to the next, and oh, wait a second, no, we actually have another chord. A chord that I didn't tackle too much, or not really, in all the other etudes. And I'm talking about the half diminished chord, which is the 7th chord in a scale. You know, in a scale, on every note we have certain chords. In C major, for example, C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, we have C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and B diminished. And with the 7th chord we have C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G dominant 7. This is the major chord with the minor 7s to it. It's now called dominant 7 because it's a dominant chord which resolves back to the minor, which resolves back to the 1, to the C major chord. Then after that we have A minor 7 and B half diminished. We already tackled the full diminished arpeggio, but now it's time to tackle the half diminished. And to create this one, we're taking our minor, A minor here, and we have to shift the fifths from E to E flat to the diminished fifths. This is how a half diminished arpeggio sounds, and look, in this case A coming from the B flat major scale. Alright, let's move on to the next inversion. Here we started on the root note and we've added the majors and the minor 7 to it. Now we're starting on the major third. There you go. Here to this position. That would be our original position. Now we have to do some adjustments to that to get the major and minor 7s into this arpeggio. And in A major it looks like this. So it's a little bit different now. We are keeping those 3 notes, but we are also adding here the major 7 on the E string, which goes now to the root note, and the root note, the octave of the root note, here on the G string as well. Can be that here in this case it's a little bit stretchy, so I'm moving up again on 1 octave. Here we can easily play this with this fingering here. And now here we have 2 options in which kind of fingering we want to play it. We can play it with index, ring, middle, index, middle. or index, pinky, ring, index, middle. I personally prefer this one here because then it's easier for my index to move from the E to the G, from the G to the E string. So again here root, third, fifth, major 7 and root again. So now you can argue about calling this one the root position. I prefer to call the other version the root position because now it's from the finger shape a little bit closer to our normal root position. But here I want to throw a little bit away the idea of the terms root position, first inversion, second inversion, etc. because it gets a little bit mixed up and confused. And now we can make out of a major 7 arpeggio, dominant 7 arpeggio by decreasing the major 7 one fret below to the minor 7. And we have this shape here. Here I like to change the fingering a little bit and do index, pinky, ring, index, ring. Now, minor, we only have to take the third and put it one fret below to the minor third, and there this shape looks like this. Now, half diminished, we're taking the fifths, in this case on the B string, and taking this one fret below. Sounds and looks like this. Alright, let's move on to the next shape. For the next shape, we're starting on the major third, and here we are adding on the G string the fifths. On the B string we have the sevenths, going back again to a major 7 arpeggio, A major 7. Then we have the root note on the E string, and now the major third on the E string as well. Here are again two kind of a little bit different fingerings. We can play everything on the 9th fret with our ring finger. But we can also, and I like to do this sometimes, use the pinky on the 9th fret of the E string to relax a little bit our ring finger. Alright, making out of this the dominant 7 arpeggio. Where's our 7s? Well, major 7 here. So our dominant 7, the minor 7, is here on the 8th fret of the B string. Here I like to play it with this fingering, index, pinky, ring, index, pinky. And then we can do a minor 7 arpeggio, of course, by taking the third, which is here on the G string 6th fret and E string 9th fret, one fret below, G string 5th fret, E string 8th fret, we create this shape here. Sounds a little bit like a pentatonic? Yeah, because only one note is actually missing here to get the pentatonic shape. This one here. Alright, and then half diminished. Again, we're taking the fifths, putting this one fret below, creating this kind of idea. So it's the same like major, or nearly the same like major, just one fret below. Instead of the index finger, this one stays in the same fret. Alright, let's move on to the next position. This one here. And in fact our final position. And there we have the fifths on the G string. That means that we have also the fifths as the last note on the E string. And then after the fifths comes these sevens. I'm going back again to a major 7. The root note here on the B string. Third, major third on the E string, and the fifths again on the E string. Looks and sounds like this. Then dominant 7, taking the major 7, doing one fret below. Minor 7. Here's our major third, we're putting this one fret below. And half diminished, like this, because here we have on the G and the E string our fifths, taking this one fret below. Alright, let us repeat every shape again. We're starting with this one here, on the 13th fret of the G string, A major 7, A dominant 7, A minor 7, and A half diminished. Going to the next shape, starting on the A major 7, A dominant 7, A minor 7, and A half diminished. Going to the next shape, now here, starting on the major third, A major 7 again, A dominant 7, A minor 7, A half diminished. Going to the next inversion, here, starting on the fifths now, A major 7 again, A dominant, A minor, and A half diminished. Alright, and these are the 3-string sweep arpeggio shapes that we are going to practice in the following etude. Let's have a lot of fun with this next etude. Here we go.